Today is the second day of our autumn 7-day session. It's the 16th of May 2016. And we're going to take up another story in The Hidden Lamp. Stories from 25 Centuries of Awakened Women by Florence Kapleau, edited by Florence Kapleau and Susan Moon. And the story we're going to look at today is called The Old Woman's Enlightenment. And this is how it goes. An old woman went to hear Master Hakuin give a lecture. He said, "Your mind is the Pure Land, and your body Amida Buddha. When Amida Buddha appears, mountains, rivers, forests and fields all radiate a great light. If you want to understand, look into your own heart." The old woman pondered Hakuin's words day and night, waking and sleeping. One day, as she was washing a pot after breakfast, a great light flashed through her mind. She dropped the pot and ran to tell Hakuin. "Amida Buddha filled my whole body. Mountains, rivers, forests and fields are all shining with light. How wonderful!" She danced for joy. "What are you talking about?" Hakuin asked. "Does the light shine up your asshole?" Small as she was, she gave him a big push, saying, "I can see you're not enlightened yet." They both burst out laughing. So a little bit of background on these characters first. First we have this old woman, a nameless old woman. This is a kind of, almost you could say, a stock character within Zen stories. The nameless old woman. Somebody anonymous, somebody of low status. Perhaps he could even say somebody that wouldn't, people of higher status wouldn't pay much attention to. Someone who doesn't really count for much, you could say. I mean, you might dismiss or not even really see. But then, in many of these stories, this person of no account surprises, has an insight, perhaps or is insightful, is enlightened. Perhaps the most well-known example of this is the tea lady in the koan and Muonkan. Ryutan blows out a candle. She's the one who as Tokusan is coming to give Ryutan what for teaching Zen. Tokusan at this point is a great scholar of the Diamond Sutra, and he's carrying a pack on his back, stuffed full of his commentaries on the sutra. And he stops on his way to the temple to get a cup of tea, and the lady behind the counter, the old woman, says, "If you can answer my question, Venerable Sir, I'll let you have some cakes. If you can't, then I'm afraid you won't get any tea or cakes here." And then she puts her question to Tokusan. Past mind is ungraspable. Present mind is ungraspable. Future mind is ungraspable. And this is a quote from the Diamond Sutra. "Pray, Venerable Sir, which mind is going to taste these cakes?" And Tokusan can't answer. He is shamed by this old lady. And this experience is really what starts his whole attitude to shift. He moves from coming to visit Ryutan in order to set him right about the Dharma to coming with humility, realizing that his understanding isn't as far-reaching as he thought. Can't even answer the question of an old tea lady. I counted up, and there are 14 stories in this book, Hidden Lamp, which have old woman in the title. And of course, in reality, these are all different individuals with a past and a present and a future, each of them unique. And this does come out in the stories. But because of the disregard for women, they're characters about whom we know very little, except often what we hear from the story itself. The other character in this story is Master Hakuin, and of course this is somebody we have a lot of information about, and much of it from his own writings and also from his very loyal disciple who also wrote about him. His dates are 1689 to 1769, and he's really the greatest figure in Japanese Rinzai Zen. A reviver of the school, which had been deteriorating for several centuries. He developed and systemized the koan training, and he emphasized the importance of sitting, of doing zazen. The school Rinzai had become intellectualized, and there's a lot of emphasis on the texts rather than the actual practice. And the chant that we just did, Master Hakuin's chant of praises zazen, is one of where we can see this importance he laid on actual sitting. He was also a great painter, calligrapher, sculptor as well, a writer, really multi-talented. He also cared deeply for the peasants that lived in and around Hara, where his temple was, most of whom probably were followers of the Pure Land tradition. I'll say a little bit about that in a moment. He actually even add another talent to his many talents. He wrote songs for the local people, sort of like folk songs, pop songs, which had Dharma teachings in them for people around. And this affection for his neighbours comes out in his writings as well. This Pure Land that Hakuin talks about in the teisho, which inspires the old woman, is referring to the paradise of Amitabha. The Pure Land school is the most popular school of Buddhism today in Japan, and it's also quite widely practiced in temples in China, including Chan temples, where these two traditions have become interwoven. And the teaching of the Pure Land school is that if you put your faith in Amitabha, whose name means the Buddha of infinite light, if you call his name with your whole heart, then you'll be freed from suffering. You'll be reborn into Amitabha's pure land, Sukhavati. And this pure land, Buddhas, there are innumerable Buddhas if you into the teachings of the sutras. Uncountable Buddhas, and each of these Buddhas kind of presides over Buddha lands, pure lands. But this particular pure land has become a particular focus for human beings, because Amitabha is said to have made a vow to bring to salvation all who sincerely call upon him. This teaching is akin in some ways to Christianity, in the sense of Christians putting their faith in Jesus Christ and finding salvation through him. Of course, there are many differences too, but you could say that if you could compare the Pure Land school with the Zen school, then in Japan they talk about the differences being between Jiriki and Tariki, where Zen talks about Jiriki, which means self-power, and Pure Land talks about Tariki, which means other power. Actually, if you go far enough in either tradition, really these two are not opposites. They're different aspects of one effort. But perhaps one of the reasons why Pure Land is more popular is that it's presented by the teachers of the Pure Land as the easy way, as the way that's suitable for ordinary people with lots of delusions. Anyone can do it, because we're not relying on our own power, so to speak, but putting our faith in Amitabha's power. And the central practice of the Pure Land school is the recitation of Amitabha's name. In Japanese, Namo Amida Butsu. So if you're a Pure Land practitioner, you just give yourself to this chant everywhere you go. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. When we were on pilgrimage in Japan, we would meet groups of other Buddhist pilgrims and Chinese people, and they would say to us as a greeting, Omitofo, which is the Chinese way of saying the same name. Omitofo. It's really has a lot of beauty to it, just the simple faith, a simple evocation of an enlightened being. So in our story, Master Hakuin in his teisho is teaching about the Pure Land and giving it, you could say, a Zen spin. He says, your mind is the Pure Land, and your body is Amitabha. When Amitabha appears, mountains, rivers, forests, and fields all radiate a great light. If you want to understand, look into your own heart. Given that his, the people living near his temple were likely to be Pure Land devotees, Master Hakuin uses upaya, skillful means, and teaches using the terminology which his listeners were familiar with. It's akin to teachers these days talking in terms of psychology or brain research, quantum physics. He says, your mind is the Pure Land and your body is Amitabha. This might have been a bit shocking to his audience. Our minds are full of defilements. How can they be called the Pure Land? And our bodies too, with all the impurities of our bodies. Surely it's our body that deceives us. And yet he says that our mind is the Pure Land and our body is Amitabha. We say this also in the Zazen Wasan. This earth where we stand is the pure lotus land. And this very body, the body of Buddha, same teaching as in this story. But actually, if we look into it, our mind has to be the Pure Land if it's to be a true refuge. Because we take our mind wherever we go. We can't possibly experience any Pure Land without a pure mind. In the Dhammapada, there's a verse which says, driven by fear, people run for security to mountains and forests, to sacred spots and shrines. But none of these can be safe refuge, because they do not free the mind from fear. Wherever we go, wherever we try to flee, our mind comes with us. In the way of the Bodhisattva, Shantideva writes, all anxiety and fear, pain and suffering immeasurable, each from the mind itself proceeds. Thus the truthful one has said, this is so, and therefore I will seize this mind of mine and guard it well. I will seize this mind of mine and guard it well. That's where our refuge is. Fear and aversion are a kind of hell. The very opposite of the Pure Land. to really appreciate this need to take ourselves in hand, to work with the mind, means to take responsibility for our lives. We can't change our past, but we do have a choice about this moment and the next moment and the next one. It's here that our freedom lies. And at some point we have to really come to grips with this fundamental aversion that comes up in different ways for us. Stephen Batchelor writes about fear. Fear is the longing not to be hurt, the craving not to suffer misfortune. It is the fundamental aversive reaction to the threats with which life confronts us. As well as being an emotion in its own right, it pervades all self-centered emotion, whether consumed by hatred or riddled by doubts. In both cases, I am afraid. How do we get beyond this mind of fear? Master Hakuin gives us an indication. He says, if you want to understand, look into your heart. This old woman does just that. She takes Hakuin's teisho to heart, literally. We can guess that she developed a lot of faith in Amitabha through her devotions, and probably also her good works, keeping the precepts. She was ripe, she was ready when she heard this, and she followed his guidance. The old woman pondered Hakuin's words day and night, waking and sleeping. Teachers can only point us in the right direction. Can't do the practice for us. We have to follow the guidance. And really the theme of all the instructions we receive is let go. No one can do this for us. Not even Amida Buddha. Because the point with the Pure Land is there has to be this turning towards his salvific power. has to be the devotion. A simple act of turning towards, but doing it again and again and again. This is how we uncover our mind, which is the pure land. We just need to access our willingness to do it, our longing. Ajahn Chah said, remember, you don't meditate to get anything, but to get rid of things. We do it not with desire, but with letting go. If you want anything, you won't find it. This is the paradox in practice. In the Pure Land school, it's expressed, we take our longing for release from our suffering, and we pour it into Namo Amida Butsu. And then we take our longing for freedom from our suffering and we pour it into the breath with a koan. We let go of our self-images and let something else in, something else that's more intimate than those self-images, more fundamental. This letting go is the whole of the teaching. There's a story that I've told before. It's about a man who had a real problem with anger, and he was walking out in the forest, thinking about this problem of his, and he thought to himself, I really don't want to get angry anymore. I fly off the handle. It's just out of control, but I don't know how to get rid of it, how to shake it. And then, surprise, surprise, he saw a holy man deep in the forest. And this guy, this sage, was standing with his arms wrapped around a tree. And so this man said to him, can you help me? I'm plagued by anger and I can't stand it anymore. And the sage said, I can help you, but first you'll have to wait until this tree lets go of me. And the man replied, but sir, the tree isn't holding on to you, you're holding on to it. The sage smiled, let go of the tree, and disappeared into the forest. This old woman, she was ready to let go. She just devoted herself to her search for Amida Buddha, until one day she was washing a pot after breakfast and she experienced this great light flashing through her mind. And we're told she just left that pot and ran to tell Hakuin what had happened. Ran out of her house, up the road, in through the modest little temple where Hakuin lived, and just charged into his room and just let it all spill out what was going on. And Hakuin eyed her. Imagine his piercing gaze as he assessed what was going on. And then he says, "Does this light shine up your asshole?" Just feigning contempt, you could say, for what she's experienced. Of course, he's testing her here. The person who writes the reflection on this story is Shinge Rokecheri Chayat, and her comment here is on this part of the story. Filled with the joy of her enlightenment, feeling the endless dimensions of that light within and without, she ran to Hakuin, who immediately tested her with words crass enough to shake a realization that wasn't genuine. His question, "Does the light shine up your asshole?" was the equivalent of a similarly coarse expression in our time. "Oh yeah? Stick it where the sun don't shine." Words that would expose any lingering duality of sacred versus profane, Amida Buddha's realm versus this realm. No longer a timid mouse, the old woman responded like a dragon, with the confidence that comes with genuine insight, challenging Hakuin, revealing the sameness of their awakened mind within the differentiation of male-female, renowned teacher, statusless student. Instantaneously they burst into great laughter, mirroring each other in joyful recognition. Quite often, insights come to people while they're doing some ordinary task. In this case, she's cleaning the rice pot from breakfast. Important point here is that she was giving herself to her koan 100%. And she was also cleaning that pot 100%. A fusion took place. Going beyond the dualities we create in our minds between action and contemplation, between enlightenment and ordinary life. And we see this in the old woman's response to Hakuin's crude comment. She says, "I can see you're not enlightened yet." She knows now for herself that enlightenment is not enlightenment. That it's wonderful and marvelous, yes, but at the same time, completely ordinary. There all along, but hidden, now visible. This earth where we stand is the pure lotus land, and this very body, the body of Buddha. It is a dilemma, though. By talking about this enlightenment, that is no enlightenment, we create something out of nothing, and then of course we chase after it. This something. The other option is not speaking of it, and this would be to ignore or deny what can transform our lives and is more vital than pretty much anything. This is one of the criticisms of the three pillars of Zen is that it holds up enlightenment in a way that reifies it and becomes problematic. This is what Roshi Philip says in his essay in a little book on the three pillars of Zen, written commentaries on it. It's a kind of Festschrift. It's called Zen Teaching, Zen Practice, edited by Kenneth Kraft. And Roshi Philip says, the danger of published enlightenment counts is twofold. First, they can provoke in the reader a grasping state of mind, the very antithesis of our essential mind. And second, they can give the impression that an initial awakening is the arrival point of Zen practice, when it very much is not an arrival point, but it's a time or a place to rekindle our efforts, to start again. I think our time is nearly up. I forgot to hit my clock. Okay, a little bit. We won't get through it all today, but I wanted to explore this dilemma a little bit further, turning to an article in this book, another article called "Seeing the Ox: A Second Look." And this article is by Roshi Graef. She's a Dharma sister to my teacher, Roshi Philip, sanctioned heir of Roshi Kapleau, and has been teaching at the Vermont Zen Center since 1988. She also has teaches groups in formerly taught in Toronto, but it's now passed Toronto Centre on to one of her own Dharma heirs, and also goes regularly to Costa Rica to the group there, gives sesshin. So she's my Dharma aunt, you could say. So one generation earlier, she was in her 20s in the late 60s and early 70s when at the height of you could say the influence of the three pillars of Zen at the centre in Rochester. And she writes in this article about the influence the three pillars of Zen had on her, and on her many young people, of her, many men and women of her generation. And so I'd like to start now and then continue tomorrow with reading and commenting on her article. I hope it will help us to put into perspective this vexed question of Kensho, Satori, enlightenment, and how we can skillfully work on the practice in a way that is balanced and which doesn't fall into grasping, but nor does it fall into not aspiring to realize, to know the Pure Land. "Here, read this," my professor said, handing me an open book. We were on our way to Rochester, New York, where I was about to attend a 7-day meditation retreat, Sesshin, my precipitous introduction to Zen practice. During the several-hour trip, I read story after story of people who had come to enlightenment, people who had been bathed in a delicious, unspeakable delight, who had disappeared into a dazzling stream of illumination, who had experienced joy like no other. Those are all quotes from the Three Pillars. Well, here it was, salvation, a way out of misery. This is just what I had been looking for in every misbegotten place under the sun. My years of confusion and mental turmoil were about to end. I was wrong. Sesshin was torture, pure and simple. I struggled with my mind. I struggled with my body. With every muscle, I pushed and fought my way to Kensho, initial enlightenment, or towards Kensho. At the end of the week, nothing. I dissolved into tears, convinced that I was the only one who had not achieved enlightenment. I resolved never to attend another sesshin. Clearly, I was a Zen failure. Somehow, in my rapt yet inattentive reading of the Kensho stories in the Three Pillars of Zen, I had failed to notice that most of the people had not come into enlightenment at their first sesshin, nor at their second, but only after years of solid training and sesshin experience. I don't think she would be the only one who went into their first sesshin with this mistaken notion. And actually, it's something to be valued, even this mistaken notion, because it does point to her faith in the possibility of awakening of Kensho. And our disappointment is a kind of, if we go through a sesshin with this expectation that we can awaken in that sesshin, it's a symptom of that faith, that disappointment that we go through. As painful as it is. It comes out of course, the desire for it to happen right now. This sesshin comes out of our desire for it. So we read these accounts and we forget what is behind them. As with the old woman in our story, we can be sure that there were years of devoted practice, perhaps all her life, chanting Namu Amida Butsu, caring and loving her family, caring for and loving her family, cooking and cleaning and working in the fields, maybe. All of that would have gone into this amazing experience of light that she had when her mind was ripe. She continues, "It has been more than 30 years since I first read those stories. Over time, they have become an unsettling question for me. I wonder, did the Enlightenment accounts in the Three Pillars point the way, or did they mislead, sometimes woefully so?" 2 months after my first sesshin, I decided to give it another try, then another and another, and so on through the years until I lost count. Although the need for serious training and ongoing practice became indisputable, I still held out for the grail of deeper and deeper enlightenment. My practice became so focused on breaking through that I neglected other aspects of training. The cultivation of compassion, for one. Herein lies the double-edged sword of those stories. For some people, they provided the inspiration to begin practicing and the motivation to keep going despite the hardships innate in spiritual work. For others, they led to a warped view of Zen practice. And I think we could fairly say that for some people, it was both. The stories could keep us going and give us a somewhat warped view of practice, of Buddhist practice. I know for me, the stories in I formed my idea of what enlightenment was supposed to be like from those stories. Reading them before doing any practice, the process had probably already kind of gelled and happened before I even sat on the mat. They were so compelling, so vivid, and so much putting into words my longing for a way, a path out of pain. Well, our time is up. We'll stop here and continue with this tomorrow.